Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series. Today, we are going to be doing design thinking for entrepreneurs. It is a workshop that we're presenting in partnership with Grow with Google, and we're just going to dive right in. So we are going to get started right away. This will be saved on our website and on our Facebook so that you can play it back anytime. We're going to begin today's live stream by learning about the 5 phases of design thinking and how the process can help you more effectively build products and services that address the challenges of your target audience. Then we're going to go through each phase of the process to discuss how you can apply these concepts to your own ideas, starting with the understanding of your audience, identifying their challenges, and crafting and testing the solutions for them. What exactly is design thinking? You may be wondering. You don't need to be in design or in art to need to use design thinking. So it's a methodology used by designers to solve complex problems. This approach has been used to brainstorm solutions for societal issues like getting kids healthy meals, getting them to school, helping well-established companies redefine their place in a fast-changing industry. So you can use design thinking to come up with your first business idea, or if you already have a business, you can use this methodology to improve an existing product or service. Design thinking isn't just for coming up with a great product or business. It should be an important part of how you connect with your customers now and in the future. Now, what exactly is technological and economically feasible? So this can change depending on your context. Of course, what you're able to create as a student over 4 years will likely differ from what you're able to create, when you're a professional or you've had a thriving business. Even so, it's important to keep in mind that using design thinking can be applied to all aspects of, whether it be your professional life or your entrepreneurial life, whatever it may be. First, we're going to start about talking about what this methodology is all about. The design thinking process was created by Stanford University, and it's being successfully used across plenty of small businesses and projects and different things that Stanford is teaching. The methodology includes 5 phases, which you guys can see here on this slide. The first is empathize. So in this phase, you'll go over your ideal audience, engage with them, and immerse yourself in their challenges and needs. Good design is all about understanding your users and your customer base that you're trying to reach. And this isn't just in customers, this is if you're planning an event, if you have a nonprofit, you need to understand who your target audience is. Define. The defining phase will express the problem of your users and their points of view. You want to remember to not just think from your own perspective, but from the perspective of your potential customer, user, or participant. Ideate. So in this phase, you're going to transition from identifying problems to actually finding solutions to those problems. Prototype. This phase is all about getting the ideas out of your head and actually creating the solutions for those problems. And finally, we have testing. So in this phase, you can create the next iteration of prototypes, test, and learn from those iterations. This is a consistent process that you need to be going through all the time. You need to be reanalyzing the steps that you're taking to make sure that you're reaching your audience in these changing times. So we talked about what design thinking is and the phases and methodology, but how can you put this in practice? So there are products that you use every day that Google has created to help the design thinking process. Designers and innovators thought about the consumer and they created the products around this. Many of you are watching, whether it be from a TV, a computer, and even on your phone. And a lot of times you have to think about in the design process, catering to these different areas. So we're going to talk about a bunch of scenarios that kind of show you the pain points of these different aspects where you will be putting your information. In our next example, almost all car owners can likely relate to the challenge you're faced with when your arms are full of groceries and bags and the kids might be pulling at you and you're trying to get your car door or your trunk open. So if you apply the design thinking process to this scenario, you can probably see where you have to improvise to figure it out. So what might you do as a car creator or a business owner to make this easier, to get your customer from point A to point B? What would that be? A free foot, right? That's kind of all you have left. So this is the design thinking process. You address your customers or who you want to reach, what their problems are, and how you can solve them. There are many other examples of this thinking, but I think you kind of have a good idea how you can use this. So think about things that you use daily. What are the inventions that you can't live without, and what things are the pain points in your life where there hasn't been a solution created? So we're going to first start with the first phase, which is the design thinking process. The first step in this process is to establish empathy. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. You want to focus on the user, and the goal of this is to connect with their stories, insights, emotions, but we have to be able to put ourselves in those shoes. So when you're looking at who your target audience is, you always want to say, okay, if that were me, what would I need? What do we mean when we say user? So the user in design thinking is the person or population that you're hoping to build a solution for. And when identifying the user, you want to be as specific as possible by adding descriptions. For example, you might maybe want to reach parents, but what kind of parents do you want to reach? Do you want to reach parents of adult children? Do you want to reach parents of toddlers? So it's really important to know exactly who your target audience is to create the best solution. This practice helps you narrow down the characteristics of your potential audience so you can really drive the core issues that they may face. So think about what you may have described as your users in your mind, or your customers, your target audience. Oftentimes we start with demographic information like gender, age, nationality. Sometimes we only consider one of the characteristics, like a parent or a working professional. But when it comes to your users, you want to be as specific as possible so that you can really understand the audience and what makes them tick. When you dig deep into their needs, it's easier to create a solution for them that will jump at the benefit. So right away, when you come up with your solution, you want to target exactly what they need and jump right in there. So for example, you may say that your target audience is women of color, but this is a huge group with endless numbers of unique interests and needs. Maybe you're looking to create a natural hairline specifically for women of color. A targeted explanation of your users would be women of color looking for products without added chemicals or toxins. Or maybe women of color who need natural products or have allergy concerns. You may have a handful of specific audiences, but these details will help you to better define your market and your design thinking. So there are a ton of examples here, but if you have a business, you've likely already thought about who your unique users might be. You can use tools like Google Analytics to find out more about your audience, which we actually have a whole other presentation about that, which you can find on our Facebook page. So now we're going to try an activity. If you're watching the playback, you may want to pause at some point to think and really work into it. But in this one, we're going to step into the shoes of the user base and try to brainstorm at least 10 challenges that they may face. 10 might seem like a lot, so if you're following along live, maybe just 2 or 3. Remember to try to specify who these users are, like we just did a minute ago. Really put yourself in the shoes of the population that you chose and think about their day by day and what their challenges are. Brainstorm potential obstacles that they may come across. So this might be the point where you may want to pause the video and write down who are your users, what are their problems, on the daily basis, which one of those do you plan to solve, and how do you plan to solve that? So there are 4 different aspects here. Again, if you feel stuck, consider pausing and coming back later. But for now, we're just going to keep it in the back of our minds. So our second phase in the design thinking process is to define a problem statement. Now that you have a clearer image of our users in our mind that we want to focus on, let's talk about what issues they have. To do so, we need to focus on the core problem from our list of challenges that we created for our user. This core problem can be a synthesis of the list. So maybe you want to take all of the things, all of the different problems and headings that you are thinking of right now or may have written down and put an overarching theme to those. Use this core problem and create a question out of it. This is going to be your core problem statement. What is that and why do we need it? A problem statement will be a succinct statement that clearly organizes, 1, the characteristics of the user, 2, the user's need or their core problem, which is clearly defined, and 3, an insight into why the user is experiencing this need. Developing a problem statement is critical in the design thinking process. Let's check out an example. So this example of a completed problem statement. Here is the user Sam. He's a busy manager. His need or core problem is that he needs a way to integrate healthy eating habits. The reason why he needs this, or the insight, stems from a desire to not feel like he's on a diet. The problem statement tells us what we need to help Sam to find solutions to integrate healthy eating habits. But he doesn't want to feel like he's on a diet. So that seems pretty clear, right? It can be tempting to try to insert a solution during the problem statement of design thinking process, but try to rein back the urge and just stay in the ideation stage. Here, we're pulling from our empathy stage to hone in on the values and try to identify with him to really tune into the need. So I want to share an important tip. I always tell people to build the problem statement from the bottom up. The more insight that you have into the emotions that are driving the need, the better position you are into the next step, which is ideating. So instead of Sam needs to learn about nutrition and et cetera and emotion and laying all that out, a better statement might be Sam is a busy manager who needs a way to integrate healthy eating habits into his daily life because he doesn't want to focus on a diet. So we take all of those emotions, and while we empathize with them, we don't want them to be in that statement. So now it's your turn. Again, you may want to pause if you're in the playback and take a few minutes to work out your problem statement. But think back on, what you've been going over thus far. Remember the list of challenges that you came up with as you imagine life in their shoes. Now synthesize those challenges into a core problem that will address the problem of your user base. We will get to the solution, but we're not there yet. Now let's go into the third phase of the design thinking process, which is ideating. So we've empathized with our chosen user, analyze and synthesize those observations to define the problem using a problem statement. It's time to ideate, or in other words, create ideas. This is the phase where we think about all of the possible solutions that come to mind. So this is kind of a popular one that's been used. It's called Crazy Eights. So you can use a Google Doc, you can insert a 2x4 table, or if you prefer to take a piece of paper and just fold it into 8 rectangles. And each section, you'll write a different idea of how to solve your user's problem. So this way you're not honing in on one, but you're giving yourself different ideas so that you can really figure out what is the best and be creative. So maybe you'll have 8 new ideas, maybe 7 of them you will have already tried or you'll know are somewhere out in the community. But the point here is that you practice letting loose and creating as many possibilities as you can. Don't worry about the feasibility right now. Blue sky thinking is definitely encouraged. Again, this is a part where if you're in playback, you might want to pause to get those 8 ideas to come together. So the beauty of this process is that we can let our mind go wild with ideas. We're going to go back to a few of our examples that we were discussing. First, we mentioned targeting women of color to look for natural hair products. So now you might already have in mind what types of products or services that you want to offer, and the different ways that you can find solutions to those challenges. Your first thought might be to create an all-natural skin or hair and skincare line. Of course, that's a huge undertaking. But on the other hand, you might consider not even offering a product. You might want to offer education or a database of products. So this is what we mean when the different types of thinking, it doesn't have to be even just about a product. It's what are all the options? Additionally, one of your ideas might be to open up a full salon. You never know. We are just looking for general solutions. Let me see. So there are a ton of other examples, but we're not going to go through all of those today. If you guys want to do this one-on-one at any point, or if you want to expand on any of these for your own business, you can get a hold of us. Our website is PMAHCC.org, and we love helping our members with things like this and really tailoring them to your business or your project. So ideally, the recommended practice is to have an unlimited amount of time to engage in this type of brainstorming. You might want to find a partner or, a business partner, another student, whatever it may be, to go through this process. So make sure that you're thinking about all of the different ideas, because no idea is too crazy. What you might think of now that seems like pie in the sky might be completely doable later with some funding or later on in your business, and it's great to keep an open mind. Now we're going to talk about prototyping. So how do we know if these solutions that we outlined in the last exercises would work? We prototype. Prototypes are inexpensive, scaled-down versions of the solutions that you want to create that we talked about in the previous ideation stage. As you build prototypes one by one, they're either accepted, improved, re-examined, or rejected. Failure is not failure. I personally don't believe in failure. I think what most people consider a failure is something that really teaches you a lesson and leads you to success. So failure is always a part of success. And every time that you fail, you know that that's one more thing that doesn't work that will get you a step closer to success. So remember, this is just an experimental stage where you're trying to create a workable product, but you're just not there yet. It's critical in this step to keep testing your ideas and gain as much feedback from potential users as possible, and then use that feedback to re-examine and improve your solution. Throughout the prototyping process, you'll gain a better understanding of the constraints within the product and feature and the problems that you may have not foreseen. This is why it's really important to have a prototyping segment instead of just jumping right to market. So once you've collected enough data in the prototyping stage, it's time to finally create the MVP, which is a minimum viable product. So this is the simplest version of a workable product that's developed with the core features to satisfy early adopters, but also provides low risk for investors. That means that the MVP should be cost-effective and quick to develop, while still providing the basic functions that you've decided on. Also, I think something that's important to add here is your MVP needs to be moldable. You don't want something that is at a point that you can't make changes, because you want to keep taking that feedback and always keep improving. This way you'll have an early idea of what your adopters, or what we call your first users, are eager to try. You'll know if they're looking for something new, if you've completely hit the mark or missed the mark. These are all things that you'll be looking for in the prototyping stage. So let's say that your goal was to create a vehicle that could take you from point A to point B. Now, there isn't much that you can do with the wheel, or two wheels with an axle, or the body of a car without the wheel or the engine. So the only viable product is a fully functioning vehicle with all the bells and whistles. Now, in the bottom example, we focus on the MVP that solves the problem of our audience in the simplest way, getting from point A to point B. Now, your minimum viable product is not your end goal. It's one of the many steps that will take you to get to your final established product. But to get to that point, you will have to do what I'm sure sounds familiar in the design thinking process, is to iterate and iterate again. Keep testing your product or service so that your user base can give you feedback and you can follow that feedback. The more changes you make and the more you adapt to your target audience, the more successful you'll be, and much more rapidly. So we won't be prototyping all together in this virtual session, but following this class, you may want to sit down and think about options for your prototype. Pick one of your feasible ideas out of the 8 that you came up with in the Crazy 8s exercise and flesh out how you would build the solution to include the technology that you need, the time required, the money needed, the resources that you have and that may be available to you. It's really important to think about not just the resources you have yourself, but the ones in your community and in your network that you can tap into. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the testing phase. This is the final stage of the design thinking process. We won't be practicing this phase together, but if you were to implement design thinking process in real life, you would definitely want to test your solution and evaluate it depending on how it goes. You may or may not want to go back and repeat some of the other phases so that you're most likely for success. Testing is an iterative phase. What does that even mean? It means that you're going to continue to go back and make changes, tweak the different features. In some cases, you may want to scrap the whole thing and start over. You know, it happens. It's just one more step in the design thinking process. So now that you've learned the different phases of this process, you may be wondering how you can use design thinking to make your business or your project more successful. This will definitely help you meet your consumers in the middle, assess their needs, and keep changing for an ever-changing world. As we know, today's world has changed much more quickly than in the past, so it's really important to keep this in mind. So we're going to look at an example. This is Sunrise Coffee. So January Romero, a former barista, opened her first coffee shop on the first day of the Great Recession in 2008. She now owns 3 cafes. While she was initially hesitant to tackle the new digital tools, her online presence became critical and important during the COVID pandemic. She's in Las Vegas, so things obviously really shut down like everyone else, and she knew that she needed a way to keep her company solvent and for the coffee shop to retain its employees and connect with the community. She looked at the changing needs of her employees and customers, which the iteration, the analysis, all of this is part of the design thinking process. And it brought new importance to the way that she interacted with her customers and what she offered. She went entirely digital by selling her sustainably sourced beans online. She also added a web function that responds to healthcare workers so that she could kick in 2 additional bags for each one donated. She was amazed by the response. Customers started flocking in droves buying her coffee, and the media took notice as well. That sense of community and desire to help others in need helped her keep going and help her reassess her business and what she needed to not only survive, but thrive in today's current climate. So that is kind of the overall, the 5 stages of the design thinking process. So just to recap really quickly, we have empathize, where we stepped into the shoes of our user base and we identified their challenges. The second was to define, where we expressed a core problem in the form of the customer's point of view. Ideate. Here we transition from identifying the problem to brainstorming solutions that may or may not seem possible at the time. Again, pie in the sky thinking is perfect for this stage. The 4th is prototype, where we brought ideas out of our heads and into the real world. And the 5th was the testing stage. And this allows us to take iterations of our prototype to improve our minimum viable product, which is called an MVP, by testing, learning, and iterating again and again to consistently improve and keep up with the changing times. So if you work through this whole thing, if you paused, if you found solutions, even if you just tuned in and learned a little bit, give yourself a pat on the back for following along and finding solutions to problems in the community. So as you think about the iterative process in the design thinking method, here are a few resources that Google provides to help along your journey. So this is Primer. This is a free app that you can download to your phone. If you have Android, you can use Google Play, Apple, the App Store, of course. And this has a series of short, fun lessons that are all less than 5 minutes each. Another great resource is quick help videos on the Grow with Google website. And of course, you can keep learning with Google on Air. Here at the Hispanic Chamber, we also have several different workshops like this one. If you have any requests or if you'd like to connect with us, please do. I want to thank you guys for being here today. I know that there is a lot going on, but remembering to prioritize your business, your consumers, and keep changing and keep growing with this ever-changing world is super important. The Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series is an initiative of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Our goals are to share relevant information, inspire growth, and foster opportunity. Speakers and workshops include community leaders and members, as well as other individuals and programs that have a positive impact, not only on the Hispanic community, but the Pittsburgh region at large. And I hope that you guys will tune in this Wednesday. We will be talking with different water authorities on different programs to help consumers, diversity and inclusion, and some other things that they have to offer. Again, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. If you want to learn more about the Hispanic Chamber, you can visit www.pmahcc.org. Thanks, and have a great day.